Hey everyone! Welcome to the first episode of my Baldur's Gate 3 Level 3 spell report cards. We're going to start with a popular one in Fireball, and it's Lightning Cousin, Lightning Bolt. Since this is the first episode using the new levels, I am going to take a couple minutes to break down what I'm looking at, the template I use, and some differences between level 2 and 3 spells. I have three main sections of the template. One goes over how strong the spell is at certain points in the game. In my mind, early game is levels 1 through 5 or 6, mid game is through the end of Act 2, and then late game is Act 3. Base level casting is using the spell slot that the spell is native to. For this series, it's going to be level 3. Upcasting is using a higher level spell slot to cast the spell. The middle section is defining how the spell is strong or weak. Superiority is general strength and how strong the spell is compared to other options. Versatility is how frequently or in how many different cases you can cast the spell. Uniqueness is for if the spell has uncommon or distinct features that make it strong or weak. Specificity is giving credit to spells that are important for specific encounters. And finally, price is accounting for if the spell is worth the spell slot, action economy, or concentration cost. The last section here won't always be used. It will give credit if there's specific builds, class synergies, or just some other factor that I didn't cover that I want to point out about the spell. As we go, I will write out and talk about some key points in this section, and at the end we will assign a final grade. The final grade isn't necessarily a function of the other grades. It should look similar, but there's no math equation that turns these grades into the final grade. You can also vote on what tier you think these spells should be, what you would put for the final grade, using YouTube polls that are going to be linked in the description. That's a breakdown of the template. Quickly, let's cover some things that are different when ranking level 2 and 3 spells. Obviously, level 3 spells become available to you later in the game. This means a couple of things. One, their equipment and class interactions are more important, because the later you are into the game, the more strong equipment and abilities you will get. 2, they need to compete with more spells. Level 3 spells compete with cantrips, level 1, level 2, and other level 3 spells to be cast. And 3, their base level casting will be more important. Level 3 spell slots are still a significant resource as you get into Act 3 and beyond, so you want to make sure you're getting the most out of them up to even the final fight. Alright, that's it for the exposition. Let's talk about Fireball. Fireball. Shoot a bright flame from your fingers that explodes upon contact, torching everything in the vicinity for 8d6 fire damage. This costs an action and your spell slot to cast. It deals 8d6 fire damage and has a dex save associated with it to have the damage. It has a range of 60 feet and an AoE of 13 feet, and upcasting deals an additional 1d6 fire damage. This is learned by sorcerers, wizards, light domain clerics, fiend warlocks, and via magical secrets. So, Fireball deals 8d6 fire damage. This is 8 minimum and 48 maximum, and 28 on average. This is good damage. It's not elite tier, but it's good. For a rough comparison, let's look at the average damage of spells cast at level 3. You can see here that Fireball is tied for third. It is behind Cloud of Daggers and Moonbeam, assuming they get 2 hits off, and it's on par with Lightning Arrow, Lightning Bolt, and Scorching Ray at 28 and just a touch above Inflict Wounds. Each of these spells have their own properties that make them better or worse than each other, but in terms of average damage, Fireball is doing pretty good. You will notice though that upcasting, it falls behind very quickly, below every other spell mentioned. On top of the good average damage, this has a very nice radius of 13 feet. For comparison, Shatter has a 10-foot radius, and Cloud of Daggers has a 7-foot radius. This makes it very easy to hit many targets. Increasing the area of a circle increasing the radius of a circle increases the area exponentially, so even if it doesn't sound like a lot, you'll notice when you're playing, and just mathematically, it is a lot more area that it will cover. Fireball does unfortunately have a dexterity save associated with it to have the damage. Dexterity is a weak save type. Most enemies will have at least a passable dex save. It's very rare that you run into enemies with a low dex. It's also fire damage, which has its pros, but it is a mediocre damage type in my mind. It's somewhat widely resisted, and it's definitely more resisted than other elemental damage types, except for poison. These characteristics combined make Fireball a decent filler option. It has good damage, a great radius, and a few suboptimal traits in the damage type and save type. Because it isn't exceptional in any category, it usually isn't the best spell to cast in most scenarios. But because it's not that bad in any category, it has a nice radius and good damage, sometimes you can cast this because you just want to throw damage at a crowd. And that's kind of the story of Fireball and how it's graded. I have a B for base level early game, C for mid to late, and D for late game. I also have a D for upcasting. 1d6 is really weak, so do not upcast this spell. Base level, it is just a fine option. It has good average damage and a good radius. Superiority gets a B. It's good, but it's far from exceptional. Uniqueness gets a C. The spell just has a lack of unique features. It's a damage ball. That's really it. Price and versatility are high at an A and an S, respectively. This is a non-concentration damage spell that you can throw out at almost any time. Class synergy gets a C. This spell has the standard damage spell synergies, I would say. Things like Evocation Wizards or Dragon Sorcerers will get some extra mileage out of this, but that is true of most damage spells, so I'm only giving it a C in class synergy as a little bit of credit. Overall, Fireball is going to be getting a B. It's good. It is good, but it's rarely ideal, and it's far from great. Let's move on now to Lightning Bolts. Lightning Bolts. Call forth a blast of lightning that hits all creatures in the line of the eruption. This costs your action and your spell slot to cast, and it deals 8d6 lightning damage. It has a dex save associated to take half damage. You cast it emanating from yourself in a 100-foot line. Upcasting deals an additional 1d6 lightning damage for each spell slot. This is learned by sorcerers, wizards, land druids, and via magical secrets. Like Fireball, Lightning Bolt is an 8d6 AoE spell. This is, again, good, but not top-tier damage. Also like Fireball, it has a dexterity save to halve the damage, which is, again, a weak save type. But Lightning Bolt has a couple of things that separate it from Fireball. One, it's lightning damage. This is, at base, just a stronger damage type than Fire. It's still somewhat widely resisted by enemies, but less so. And it is also very easy to make enemies vulnerable to lightning damage, which is the bigger thing. You can use Create Water, you can throw water bottles, or really anything that will give enemies the wet condition. These are huge, easy ways to double the potential damage of lightning spells. This is very important and makes lightning, in practice, very strong. The other key differentiator is that it casts the spell in a line, not a circle. Lightning Bolt casts in a line up to 100 feet away. That is way higher than the standard range of 60 feet, and the line is about 5 feet wide. I think it could be maybe 7 feet, but it's in that range. The longer range at 100 feet means that this spell can hit things other spells simply can't. This is useful, but the fact that it is a line and hits everything in that line is the real kicker. With a line, you're going to be able to target two enemies really easily. In geometry, you create a line by connecting 2 points. In this case, those 2 points are enemies, and as long as they're within 100 feet of each other, which is always, you can make it work. This isn't always true of a spell that casts in a circle. If no one is by your primary target, well, you're out of luck. Lines are also easier to work with when you're working around your party because they're thin enough that you can weave it between targets. Grades are going to look very similar to Fireball, but stronger in a few places. I prefer the line casting and the lightning damage type to the circle and fire. Differences are in the top section. It's just a grade above. I do think that with the damage type and line casting, Lightning Bolt is sometimes the best spell to cast in a scenario, whereas that's very rare for Fireball, so I bumped up its base level casting at every point. Still gets a D for upcasting though. We also have one difference in the uniqueness. I gave it an A, again, for the line casting, which we've talked about a lot. That is a very unique thing that separates the spell from others. The rest is all the same. Overall, is this enough to bring lightning bolts from a B to an A? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. This is going to be an A. Maybe this will change as we add more spells to the tier list, but for now, we're going to put Lightning Bolt in A tier. I like the lightning damage. I like the line casting. It is, like Fireball, also just a decent filler option, so I am a fan of this spell, and I do cast it somewhat frequently. Alright, let's move on to the tier list now. Well, this should be really quick. I don't have any decisions to make. Fireball is going to be going in B tier, and a Lightning Bolt is going to be going in A tier. I think in my head, this is probably a low A, and this is a mid to low B. So once we throw some things in, we'll see how they compare. But for now, we don't have to compare to anything yet. All right, well, that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments or in the polls. And yeah, have a good one.